what can you see if you look a little bit closer? Well, you might notice some things that you didn't see before. Those are called details. We've been working on adding detail to our topic paragraphs in our compare and contrast essays. Today we're going to focus on the contrasting or differences paragraph. But before we do, I want to show you some examples of why it's important to add detail to things. Then we'll look again at the 3 criteria that we need to include in our differences paragraph, and then I'll show you the one that the students came up with together. Let's take a look. The first example I want to show you is from the National Geographic magazine, and it's showing a picture of someone in a boat, or maybe they're by the seashore, it's not quite clear, but they have a megaphone and it looks like they're shouting at a lighthouse. Why are they shouting at a lighthouse? It's hard to tell if you look at the picture from the whole, but if we zoom in a little bit, we can see that there's actually somebody in the lighthouse shouting back at them. Or actually, he's got the megaphone to his ear and he's listening to what the person is saying. So this is a picture of a census taker, actually. A census taker is somebody who goes around the country counting people to make sure that the government knows how many people there are in each house. That's what we could see if we look closely. We can see there's actually somebody living in the lighthouse. But we can only tell that if we looked a little bit closer. Thanks to National Geographic for that one. Here's another picture from National Geographic magazine. And it is, well, you can see it's a full field of turkeys. But what you might not notice if you're just looking at it from afar is that there's something there in addition to the turkeys. Let's zoom in. Yes, there is a woman in a full fur coat standing with the turkeys. And she is the turkey farmer, and she's posing with her turkeys in her best clothing because she is so proud of these turkeys that she is raising outside. Again, detail that you might not have noticed otherwise. Now let's take a look at our 3 criteria.
The criteria for our second topic paragraph are basically the same as the criteria for our first topic paragraph. This time we're looking at differences, and once again we're going to look for an introduction sentence, we're going to look for transition words or phrases, and as I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to look for extra details for each point. Those are the things that add richness to what we're writing. Because we're not just making a grocery list, we're writing an article, and the difference between a list of things and an article is sometimes just those extra details that you're putting in. I did mention transition words, and I just want to remind you that the transition words that you use for the differences paragraph are not going to be the same as the ones you would use for the similarities paragraph. In the differences paragraph, you're going to use words like however, on the contrary, on the other hand, even though, by contrast. Those are transition words that emphasize the differences. Okay, let's take a look at what Room 28 wrote together, or at least the students who were there on that week when we had, 6 students. And we got together and we wrote a differences paragraph. Remember, we were looking at the differences and similarities between McDonald's and A&W. Here's where we left off. Let's zoom in to the differences paragraph. And let's begin reading. If they are so similar, then how are you going to choose? That looks like it's making a transition between the similarities paragraph that we made last time. So let's highlight that as an introduction to a new paragraph, which is differences. Well, well looks like a transition word, so let's highlight that in red. Well, there are big differences in terms of what you can get as a kid. So the rest of the information underneath here is going to be about the differences between what McDonald's gives you for kids and what A&W gives you for kids. Let's see. McDonald's has Happy Meals, which come with yogurt, a toy, or a book, and a choice of fries or apples. That looks like extra details about the Happy Meals. It doesn't just say Happy Meals. So let's highlight that as extra detail. Some McDonald's even have an indoor play structure. Isn't that fun? After kids finish eating, they can burn off all their energy by climbing through giant tubes, zooming down the slide, and spinning the spinny thing. So again, that's extra detail about what McDonald's gives kids. Highlight that in yellow. So lots of detail about this part. As an aside, don't ask me what the spinny thing is called. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out what that spinny thing is called, and we still have no idea. By contrast, ooh, that looks like a transition word that shows us differences. Let's highlight that in red. By contrast, A&W has no special stuff for kids. So what does A&W have that's special? That's not a transition word. That's an entire transition sentence. But I'm still going to highlight it in red. Well, did I use well again? Oh my gosh, we used well twice. I wouldn't recommend using the same transition words over and over again. We had well over here, and now there's another well. Try to avoid doing that. It gets repetitive and boring, but I guess it's okay to use it twice. Just don't use it 3 times. Well, they do have crispy onion rings. They're crunchy and slightly spicy. Okay, so I didn't just say crispy onion rings. I gave a little bit more detail about what those onion rings are like. On the other hand, McDonald's onion rings are soggy. Okay, so on the other hand's a transition phrase, right? So let's highlight it in red. There. On the other hand, McDonald's onion rings are soggy. So I've made a contrast, right? The A&W onion rings are good. Well, they're not, I didn't say they're good, but they're crunchy and spicy. And the McDonald's onion rings are soggy. Maybe you like soggy onion rings. I don't know. It's up to you to choose. A&W has puffy burgers that are tall and filling. The buns are fluffy. The patties are substantial. So I gave extra detail about those puffy burgers. So we're going to call that extra detail. However, ooh, that's a transition word, specifically for comparing and contrasting. However, McDonald's burgers are flat and sad. A&W has special root beer that you can't get anywhere else. It's fizzy, rich, and doesn't have a weird aftertaste like most soft drinks. So that's extra detail about the soft drinks, so I'm going to highlight that in yellow for extra detail. McDonald's just has normal soft drinks that you can get anywhere else. That's our contrast or differences paragraph. And as you can see, we got quite a bit in yellow, which means we succeeded in involving a lot of extra detail. We also hit the other requirements, which were the transition words and our introduction sentence over here.
Now that you've seen my example paragraph, it's time for you to make your own. Make sure you include lots of detail so that we can see all the things that make your 2 comparators different.